Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Step Into Me. This is the show where we explore what it truly means to find the courage to be true to yourself. Well, today's guest will be familiar to some listeners, especially those from my hometown in Perth, Western Australia. Tim Gossage is a well-known sports presenter and commentator. He spent over 30 years at Network 10, becoming a familiar face for sports coverage and hosting television programs like The Western Front. In 2020, Tim's world was turned upside down. As part of sweeping cost-cutting measures, Tim, along with other high-profile presenters, was made redundant. At the time, Tim was quoted publicly as saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." But when reality hit, he found himself in unfamiliar territory.
I just should have had a better structure where my energies and my focus were, what's going to happen if something goes wrong?
In this episode, Tim shares what it's really like to lose your public identity, to grieve, to stumble, and to rebuild. He talks about his ongoing struggle with mental health and the steps he's taking to write a new chapter. So settle in, grab a cup of tea, and join us for this very special episode. It's all about curveballs and comebacks, reinventing yourself when the unexpected happens. It's August 2020, and Tim Gossage is preparing for work. He's had his morning cuppa, checked the latest sports results, and he's thinking about the day ahead. For Tim, it's been the same routine for over 30 years. Then suddenly, the phone rings, and in a single moment, everything changes.
Where I'm speaking to you right now, basically in my sort of bedroom stroke office area, it was about 9:20 in the morning, and I received a phone call from our network boss who was based in Sydney, and I thought to myself, what have I done wrong this time? Because the only time he ever rang was if there was a stoush or a disagreement or something contractually that needed to be thrashed out or just something had gone wrong on air or whatever. So I took his call, and basically he hit me between the eyes and basically said it's not the phone call that he wants to make, and that in 4 weeks' time, I, along with many others, presenters around the network and several other staff members, would no longer be required, and they were centralising everything to Sydney. I sort of didn't quite understand. Well, I understood, but I didn't quite get my head around it at the time. He said, "Have you got anything to say?" And I said, "Well, not at this stage, but I'm sure once it settles in, I'll react accordingly." I hung up. My daughter Abby walked past and she said, "Dad, did you just get the sack?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes." Had a shower, had a shave, and drove to work, which is 5 minutes from where I live. Walked in and everybody knew. With hindsight, it was crazy. As you mentioned in the intro, been there a long time. Always felt there was an uneasiness about the network and the way the network was heading, but thought, oh, well, they've got to do their business. And everyone sort of said it was COVID related and all this sort of stuff, but it wasn't. It was financial. Yeah, so it was hard to swallow. It took me a long time to get my head around it, to be brutally honest with you.
And this had been your childhood dream, hadn't it? I mean, while I was and other people were singing into their hairbrushes as kids, you were actually playing sports commentator, weren't you?
100%. Grew up wanting to do exactly what I did. And that's sort of where there's a bit of me that sort of says Channel 10 gave me the real go at living the dream, the boyhood dream, growing up in the backyard, playing cricket, keeping the scorebook, going inside, grabbing a hairbrush, standing in front of the mirror, presenting the scorecard, thinking I was reading the sport, putting a tie on from Dad's and pretending I was a sports presenter. And, I went on to live that dream for a long, long time. I was very, very lucky. So talking sport, getting paid to visit sport, never bought a ticket to attend any sporting event in my entire life. I was very privileged, very lucky, and for that I'm truly grateful. But you don't see the end. I mean, when you think you're just going along smoothly, you feel like you're a big part of what they're doing, and then they deliver the sledgehammer blow. It was, it was difficult to comprehend.
Were you angry or bitter, or did that come later? Were you just in shock initially, I imagine?
Yeah, all those and above. was really sad initially when I went into Channel 10 that day, and everyone was talking about it. And it wasn't just me. There were other good people. Monica Koss, who I had the privilege of working alongside only briefly for 9 months, but Mon had been dumped by Channel 7 Today's Night. She'd been there for 20 odd years and it's a household name in Perth, and she'd come across to read our news. Michael Schultz and I had been together from virtually the day dot that we both started at Channel 10, and there were other staff members as well in certain, predominantly in editorial, but in other departments. So everyone was a bit rocked by it, and people had choices of taking redundancies and all that, but we didn't get a choice as presenters. But the same thing happened to Brisbane and Adelaide. Tim Bailey, who's one of my lifelong friends, he was shown the door doing weather in Sydney, and there were others as well. So in simple terms, my emotion was, wow. I didn't feel hard done by, but I felt 4 weeks wasn't a great farewell tour, so to speak. And yeah, I was hurting. The bitterness and anger certainly came after, but that came in a strong bout of depression and a bit of a black hole that I went into, which really took its toll. But I eventually had good people, or I always had good people around me, but I had a lot of people who held me up long enough to keep my head above water, and we moved on.
And redundancy is such an ugly word, isn't it? Because we say, I was made redundant or Tim was made redundant. We never say my position or Tim's position was made redundant. Did you feel that you, Tim, the person, had been made redundant?
I was told my position was moving predominantly to Sydney, that they were going to present sport out of Sydney. I then said, well, can I keep the lead sports job in Perth? And they said, yes, but this is going to be your pay packet. And I just didn't think that comprehended with the workload. And in simple terms, sport never left Perth. Never left Perth. And my 2IC at the time, who's a very good friend of mine, and I love him dearly, and he's now reading sport in Perth, never left Perth after I left. And the news is back in Perth, and all the people, Michael Schultz, myself, Monica Koss, were all let go. And the bulletin is now still presented in Perth. So it really was a financial decision. That's all they were making, to be honest with you. They basically culled, a dozen people from the Perth office in various forms of, some didn't get a choice. Schultzy didn't get a choice. I didn't get a choice. Monica didn't get a choice. And yeah, but I was sacked. And being a contracted member of staff, you got a payout, but it was, I don't think, for what it's worth. It's not all about the money, but I don't think it was duly fair on 30 years of service. So basically you got your long service leave, a few holidays and a bit of a handshake, and out the door you left 4 weeks later.
It's a nasty industry, isn't it?
Brutal. Yeah, brutal.
It really is.
But I look at it now, and I see a lot of centralisation in radio, Perth radio. There's very few FM stations over here now that go from breakfast to night. It's basically breakfast. There might be one other shift. News is read out of the network. The traffic is done elsewhere. There's a whole range of things. It's the media is a brutal industry, and we're seeing cuts and changes right around the world. And I was just one of those cuts. But I reflect beautifully on the staff. I love the staff at Channel 10. I've never been back. I've barely watched a bulletin. I saw the news director probably 6 months ago for the first time. I was still ebbing and flowing in regards to my moods and how I was coping with that sort of, it's now, almost 4 years ago. But I saw the news director for the first time, who never contacted me after I left. No, not one single person inside the building contacted me. Now, that could have been a reflection of my popularity. I'm not too sure, Belle.
I don't think so.
But I would have loved a text. I would have loved a text or a phone call or an email. I did receive one message from HR that said, if you're feeling you're in a bad space, here's a number to call, which was really nice of them. Basically saying, beyond blue is a place to turn if you're depressed about losing your job. Just really poorly handled by management. Anyway, I saw this said person in the local supermarket, and I think she was a little bit put out by me being there. I think it was a bit awkward. We had a great relationship when I worked there. Simple tap, I just went over to her and I gave her a hug and I said, I miss all of you. You were good to me. And I think there was time on reflection. I think she probably would have reached out before that day if she had time over again. But I suppose there's no easy way to sack people. So it was a learning curve for everybody. But yeah, there's been a lot of bitterness since walking out.
And less than 12 months before all this happened, ironically, you had actually fronted a television campaign for Think Mental Health, hadn't you? At the Check on a Mate campaign aimed directly at men. And here you were struggling with your own mental health issues. So talk us through that. So there must have been that point where you knew you had to move on. This was reality. What was the first steps that you took into recovery, I suppose?
Yeah, yeah. I suppose owning up to the fact that I was in a pretty bad space. It was the day before my last day. It hit me the biggest. It was a Thursday, and Friday was going to be my last bulletin, and I almost wanted some form of revenge. It had been written in the paper. It had been well talked about that I was going. There was talk might be staying in a different role. Blue blah blue. I virtually would go from home to work. I wouldn't go to the shop, so I was sort of limiting where I was going and what I was doing more. And I'm not exact. I mean, I feel like I'm a friendly person. I don't say I'm a man of the people, so to speak, but I'm certainly a person that doesn't mind going up to the local shops and laughing and giggling with people and being a local. But I didn't have the courage to almost do that. I was almost embarrassed, to be brutally honest, that here's this guy who's you've been sacked, so to speak. I didn't get a choice, so it was sort of a bit out of my hands. So the day before, I basically said to my family, I just don't think I can go to work tomorrow. And Abby, my eldest daughter, voice of reason, said, Dad, I think you should go. I think you should go because it is your bulletin. It's been your bulletin for more than 20 years reading sport, and you get a chance to say goodbye. And that last day, they basically were going to I was going to get 20 seconds to say goodbye. Schultze and Mon were all sitting on the set. They arrived late with their flowers. They cut us off because they had to go to a pre-recorded show, The Project. There was a small video presentation. Everything was all a bit awkward and a bit rushed and felt, and then they were going to have a farewell drink downstairs in the world's smallest bar, which, it was just all poorly handled. Felt like there was a massive disrespect. So I left bitter. That's at stage. The last day I actually left really angry. Took its toll on my family, my wife, my mum and dad, who are still going strong in their 90s, but I was in their lounge room every night for 30 years. So that was my connection with my parents, as much as I'd see them a lot as well. But they could see me, so I didn't have to go around every 5 minutes to see them. That was all their connection. In regards to quickly bouncing back, it didn't happen. I was terrible. I was really angry. I would lay in bed, really just feeling. I don't say I was feeling sorry for myself. I just felt like, what was I going to do? I was late 50s or mid 50s, and I was thinking, what can I do? And I still had sort of radio and I had a bit of MC work, but I wasn't brave enough to do a few of those things. So I took some time off, and then just a few close mates rallied around me and said, look, you need to dust yourself off, mate. You've still got lots of life. You've got lots to give, and you need to move forward. So I did. I was already on medication anyway for mental health, but yeah, I sort of took the steps of trying to be positive, not putting on a facade as such. I actually needed to keep moving. I had a mortgage to pay. I had kids to look after. I had a wife to take care of. I wanted to be strong for my parents. So basically it was just a realisation that, yes, it hurt. Yes, I felt really bad. I felt a bit of a loser, but I had to find a way. I had to find a way.
And I think tougher for somebody like you as well. I mean, so many people are connected to, or their identity is connected to their job or their work title. I'm the CEO, or I'm the this, or I'm the that. But you were an identity. I mean, you were a public identity in Perth, which isn't the biggest city in the world. So everywhere you went, you had that on you. So courageous, I think, to even be able to step out the front door. That must have just been the toughest time of your life, I imagine.
It was. You're 6'7", 100 odd kilos, pretty brazen, have a fairly strong opinion on sport in the world that I work in. Did a lot of MC work. I don't know, it just wasn't me. It just wasn't me. And you're right, walking out the front door, going to the shop, going to an event, eventually going back onto radio, it was tough. And you're right. We had some terrific newsreaders and people who'd been through Channel 10 for a long time. And I say this quite openly. I was the face of Channel 10. I was more the face of Channel 10 than our newsreaders or our weather presenters or anyone had been there. I was the one who had been there when we didn't rate at all, and then we were a bit of a powerhouse in ratings. And when everyone was kicking Channel 10 when they were down, I was the most vocal. And I sort of, for me, when we had some trouble inside the newsroom, I led the fight to save jobs and save people and save their positions. And I just felt this was me, and I was heading for the scrap heap. And yeah, there was a lot of embarrassment in my own world. But, you'd go somewhere and people would be beautiful about it, and they'd say, oh, sorry to hear about it. And I suppose the comfort, it was really quite bizarre. I got a lot of comfort, and I sort of still do. I'm not as vindictive and nasty as I was initially, or bitter. I get a lot of people say, since you left, we haven't watched because you were such a big part of our night. Funny, informative, leader. Had been in the lounge rooms, through whether it my footy show or whether it be on commentating basketball or football or whatever it may be, whatever my roles were, that was all gone, and they were now tuning into other people doing my job. And I took that as a vote of confidence, to be honest. It didn't change anything, and it's probably a little bit pedantic, but I sort of got some enjoyment out of it, to be honest.
And so you should. Well, let's talk about the move forward, because you had, and you said at the start here that in hindsight maybe you did see it coming many times over, because you had started auctioneering while you were still at 10, and during COVID you did a real estate course. So something in your subconscious knew that there was a new chapter coming, didn't it?
It certainly did. I love auctioneering, and I went and got my official auctioneering license, which you do need if you're selling anything, to be honest, because if there's a dispute, you've got to be legally contracted to settle the dispute. And there's a lot of auctioneers who do charity events who auction stuff off, and if there's ever a stoush, good luck trying to get it sorted. So if you have your license, you can control the result of it. But in particular, I was chasing the sort of real estate side of things, and again, some really good supportive people said, you're very good at the auctioning stuff, and I was doing houses, and which I loved. Not that there's a huge market for auctioning in houses in Western Australia. It's big on the East Coast. In fact, it's basically the only way you sell your houses on the East Coast. It's just the laws are slightly different over here. So, yes, I loved it, and I was doing a lot of corporate auctioning as well as real estate auctioning. And then I was approached by a company to say, have you thought about... In fact, I was actually originally approached by Nigel Satley, who's one of the biggest developers in Western Australia. We were having coffee up at our local in Subiaco, not far from where you and I used to work. And he said to me, mate, got a mobile phone, got a laptop, got a car, do real estate. You'd be good at it. And literally a week later, I got a phone call randomly from a gentleman who's basically who launched the agency real estate group. It's now national, but very big in Western Australia. And he said, I want you on board. So that I did. And yes, you're right. I had done my ticket during the COVID time, but I let it lapse, to be honest. It came with losing my TV job, mental health. I basically did it, but I let it lapse, so I didn't complete it properly. So I had to resit it, which is, because I liked school, but I hated school. I went to school for sport and lunch.
I think
And that's what I felt like
the same.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like it doing the real estate course, going back to school. And I vowed when I left high school I'd never go to study another day, but I had to. And now I just maintain my CPD points, my professional points, and I love it. And it has been, am I good at it? I think I'm serviceable. Have I had some success? Yes. Am I the best in town? No. But boy, oh boy, it came at a great time for me. I'm not making $1 million out of it. I still do breakfast radio. I still do a lot of corporate work, but the communication in real estate with sellers and buyers and legals and office staff gives me that TV fix that was no longer there. So very different. So you go from being a TV guy to a real estate guy. I suppose the next thing I'll do is sell cars, and I've got all three of the most unpopular professions all covered off in one. But I do love the real estate, and I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very pleased that I got pushed into that direction.
And how do people react when because your face would have to be on the for sale signs, wouldn't it? And your phone number. So how do people react to that?
Oh, I get some crazy reactions. They're all very nice. They walk in, and I say, "Oh, welcome, thanks very much," and get your details, and if I can help you with anything. They've obviously seen the property, but until they actually walk in and they actually see you physically standing there, and you are the sales representative, they take a while, and then they come back and said, "You're that Tim Gossage, aren't you?" And I say, "Yeah." And you get some ladies and women who don't recognise, had no interest in sport, but they recognise the voice from our days, our radio days,
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff like that. So it's a bit of a combination. But yeah, actually, as we speak right now, I've got a gentleman who is about to purchase a unit that I'm selling in the northern suburbs, about 30 minutes north of Perth. And he just said, "I can't wait to tell my mates that I bought a house off Tim Gossage. Can I get a photo?" Um, so,
So you're
so
good for
that's pretty cool.
business.
So yeah, I take it every day of the week. I like that. So I think the first 12 months, it took a bit of convincing to people that I was genuine about the industry and I wasn't just doing it to cash in on this, crazy lucrative Perth real estate market, which has gone through the roof. There's not many properties for sale, to be honest. There's actually 3 times the agents as there is listings available. So you're still, butting heads with other agents to get it. But my profile has certainly helped, and for that, I'm probably grateful again for my TV days.
And how's your mental health now?
Good question. I have my days. I have my days. Yeah. Some days I wake up full of energy and ready to go, and things wear me down. Small things wear me down. But, I've got 3 beautiful grandchildren, great supporting wife, my mum and dad. I've got good colleagues I work with in radio, and I've got a very small select group of friends who I can just message every now and then. But I'm not great. I'm not great, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm going to be good. But it's it is what it is. You just got to soldier on. I'm not at a point where there's no return for me. I'm strong enough to deal with the bad days. But yeah, I try and be brave. And yeah, the more you talk about it, the better you become. If people listen, you're not after advice. You just want, if they see that you're struggling, they let you know that you're there. And I've done a few talks with people, and gets quite emotional when I talk about it. And people say, "Why do you do that? Why do you put yourself through this range of emotion where you talk about your mental health struggles and battles, and you get quite wound up, and it becomes quite sad?" And I said, "Because it's real." And that's all life is. Life is real, and mental health is real. And if you'd asked me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I just would have said, "Nah, you're kidding, aren't you? A big, strong male who doesn't get bothered by the small things." But I do, and I'm working through the process one day at a time. But yeah, I'm good, but today I'm not so flash.
Thank you for being so honest about that too, because it's like what we see on Facebook, isn't it? Everyone just posts the happy reel on Facebook, but underneath there can be things going on that people don't realize. They might see your happy face on the for sale signs and think, "Oh, he's found his feet," and you have, you've moved forward. But clearly, there's still a lot of work to be done. If you were your own therapist, Tim, what advice would you be giving yourself right now? What do you need? What do you need?
Um, for my own true self right now, I need Tim time. When I suppose all I've ever done is performed. Performed as a media person, whether it be radio, TV, coaching a sporting team, around the school grounds with your kids, your Tim Gossage, come and host something, auction, radio, sell people's houses. You're always doing something for someone else. You're always doing it. Don't get me wrong. They were my life choices. They were my life choices. But there comes a day where you feel like you just want to do Tim Gossage things. Now, and I don't have a massive circle of friends. I just don't. I'm not a big drinker. If I'm not working, I'm at home. I'm not after any sympathy. I'm not after anyone to have to look after me. But you go back over my journey, my whole life has been about performing, either on stage, on TV, on radio, at an auction, and whatever that may be. I took 5 days off recently. I went up north to Broome, and I did nothing, and I was lost. I didn't know how to do it, but I've not been very good in doing Tim time, but I do need to take time out, and whether that's walking the dog, patting my horses, I don't know, just doing nothing, to be honest, but looking after me. And I think if I was a therapist, make me the priority, which I've never done, and I'm not very good at doing, even at this tender age of 60 years of age, but it's not too late.
Well, it's timely that the last episode of this podcast was Mark Jensen, somebody that I used to work with in Sydney, who had a big aha moment when he was an actor, spent his life making career goals and saw this video which suggested that he needed to make a life goal. And it's something that we don't even think about. We just, we tick the boxes, don't we? Get married,
Yep.
Build a house, all these things, have a good job, climb the corporate ladder. So like you're saying, having Tim time, what's that? What does that even look like?
Yeah, exactly right. And in simple terms, things like, for me, mowing the lawn and cleaning the pool are good things, because the lawnmower makes noise and everyone stays away, and no one likes cleaning the pool. They normally get someone to come and do it for you. But I like scooping the leaves and vacuuming. It just gives me 45 minutes of my time. As small and as almost lame as that is, that's as far as Tim time goes. Or I own horses, so when they race in the country, I drive. And I sit in the car for 2.5 hours. I don't have the radio on. I don't listen to anything. I just drive. But then when you get to the trots and get to see horses, everyone wants a piece of you. So you see your horse, you get in your car, you drive back. The horse races for 2 minutes, but you spend 5 hours in the car. 5 hours is heaven in a car with no one else.
Are you getting professional help as well? Is that something that you want to share?
I just take medication, and no, I don't. I've tried psychologists and psychiatrists early days, but even prior to my TV days. But no, not since the TV exit. I don't know. I understand those professionals in that field, but I'm a bit like people when we've had radio days. We used to have hypnotists who used to come in and say, we're going to hypnotise someone and we're going to do funny things on radio. I was not a believer. So they would throw me out straight away and say, well, no, we need someone to relax and believe. And I'm not saying I don't believe in psychologists and psychiatrists and mental health experts, not in the way, shape or form, but somewhere under this shirt that I'm wearing, or my jacket and my tie, there's a Superman. There's an S on the front of my chest that says I'll be able to get through on my own powers, even though I know 5 minutes ago I certainly didn't sound like I could. But I'm pretty stoic. S is for stoic on my chest, not Superman. And I'll just keep finding my way. I'm 60 now. I've got to be strong. I've got beautiful grandchildren and beautiful children all growing up and doing their thing, and a wonderful supportive wife who has her own battles, and beautiful parents who are in their 90s. I've just got to stop feeling sorry for myself, stop trying to be too brave, and just be Tim Gossage, grandfather, father, husband, and son and brother, and the like. That's just,
which are really the most important identities of all, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they are the most important. And to be honest, you can have a shit old day, but when you walk home and you walk home, and it's only my wife and I together, and a little humble house, that this is cool. 2 dogs, 3 cats, grandkids who visit, make noise, make mess, and life is good.
And you just need to find more Tim time.
Yeah, I do. I don't want to retire. See, if I finish my media, which I think the end's coming sooner rather than later, if I finish my media, always have enough MC work, and I think the real estate stuff, I'll probably be selling houses till I'm about 95, so that'll do me.
Fantastic. It sounds like a plan. So, Tim, what have you learned, do you think, from this chapter?
Be prepared. I think be prepared, because I got blindsided. I got blindsided when I shouldn't have. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't have structure. I just knew what I had to do, where I needed to be, but I had no long-term plan. And when things are going really well and you're just ticking over, that's a good time to take a holiday. That's a good time to have a reset on yourself or your partner or your family or whatever that may be, whether it be financial or whatever. I just went to work. All I did was work. Got up at breakfast at 4 a.m, went from radio to TV, home, did an event, went and hosted something Saturday, Sunday, 7 days a week, got on planes, came back, and just thought that's just what I did. What I've learnt, I just should have had a better structure where my energies and my focus were what's going to happen if something goes wrong. I've now found the plan B, which is great, but at the time, I didn't. I just felt life was going to be like this forever and a day. So just make better decisions when things are going well, not when they hit you between the eyes.
And hopefully you can find that structure now with this new gig as well, because I suppose it's the same thing, isn't it? That could change overnight too, couldn't it? So it's about finding the structure within what you're doing now. It
already does, yeah. It does. There's not many listings around, and I know a lot of agents who have been in it for a lot longer than I who don't have listings, and it's tough. It's a tough market out there. Everyone thinks all the real estate agents make a lot of money, but there's some that do, there's plenty that don't. So yeah, but for me, good health's important, family's important. I know they're all very cliche, but they are. And just take time out for yourself. Just take time out for yourself. And I didn't. I did it for everybody else but myself for far too long.
Well, let's hope this new chapter is all about Tim, because you are so worth it. I mean, we worked together years ago and you were more than a colleague. I mean, you're a great friend. You're a great laugh. You're a great person to have around. So people need Tim Gossage in their life.
Too kind, Belinda Lee. Yeah, well, we did have fun. And I suppose in that strange world of breakfast radio way back then, you had to sort of be a little bit different. You had to be full of energy when you used to come to work and do stuff, which I loved. I was very lucky to work with great people like you. And, with a kid with a bad voice, strange voice, I've survived. Well, I got told I wouldn't be on TV because I had a strange voice and glasses, and I went 31 years, Belinda.
I was just going to say, you survived 31 years in television. You should have that framed. I mean, talk about superhero. Not many people can say that they've spent 31 years on television.
No, very lucky to live the dream for as long as I did.
Yeah, and the dream continues.
Thank you. It does. I'm very lucky.
Tim, thank you so much for sharing your story with such honesty and just your willingness to open up today about those tough times, and the courage that it's taken to reinvent yourself is, I think, truly inspiring. I know your journey will resonate with so many people who are facing their own curveballs, whether that's the loss of a job or the loss of their financial status or a loved one. There are so many things that when life throws us curveballs. So thank you again for reminding us that even after loss, there's always the possibility of a meaningful new chapter. You are my superhero.
I'm glad I chatted with you. It was beautiful. You've got such a soothing voice. I love it. And if anyone who has listened to this needs to reach out, contact me any way you can on social media. I'll be more than happy to share and chat.
Well, like I said, a very special episode of Step Into Me today. I think it was quite something for Tim to share not only his public story, but his private journey as well, the grief, the anger, and the process of rebuilding, which is ongoing. Tim's experience is a powerful reminder that our worth isn't tied to job titles or public positions, and that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is just pause, listen, and give ourselves permission to take Tim time. If today's conversation resonated with you, or if you're navigating your own season of change, remember, you're not alone. Take a moment to check in with yourself. What do you need right now? Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, give it 5 stars and follow so you don't miss next week's episode. I'm Belinda Lee. This is Step Into Me, helping you find the courage to be true to yourself.